again.
All
Welcome,
right.
everyone.
So, hi everybody, welcome. What we're doing is this is called an IO Extended. Some of us attended the big event in Mountain View, where Google rolled out all their new features and cool stuff. And so one of the things we're gonna do is watch some videos today. We're gonna see we'll watch the very first opening video of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet, and talking about the whole thing. Then Roya Kandalan is going to talk in detail about AI and give us a nice demo. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit. Roy will also be able to answer any questions that you have about what Sundar has to say. And we'll look at a few demos and that thing. It should be a really interesting event tonight, and we should be done by 8 p.m. Okay, so without further ado, let's give it over to Sundar. Let me just bring up this screen. It's this. So there we see it. I will. I'll get this going in just a moment. It starts off with a nice kind of video. So enjoy that. Wait, hang on one second. I got to do one more thing. Sorry.
While John doing one more thing here, I just wanted to say, first of all, it was nice to have all community, GDG developers, Google developers joining all together. Thanks, Google, inviting us to California to the keynote, to the great event by Google, Google I/O.
Now,
Why
so if you
I/O?
while you're watching the video, you may see me in the. I think I was in the fifth row, and Roya was in the second row, and we're right down there, just because it was cool. All right, without further ado, here's Google.
Google's ambitions in artificial intelligence.
Google launches Gemini.
AI is rolling out to work.
And it's completely changing the way we work.
You know, a lot has happened in a year. There have been new beginnings. We found new ways to find new ideas and new solutions to age-old problems. Sorry about your shirt. We dreamt of things, never too old for a treehouse. We trained for things.
All right, let's go, go, go.
And learned about this thing. We found new paths. Took the next step. And made the big leap. Cannonball! We filled days like they were weeks. And more happened in months than has happened in years. Ooh, 3 eggs. Things got bigger. Like, way bigger. And it wasn't all just for him or for her. It was for everyone. And you know what? We're just getting started.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Google I/O. It's great to have all of you with us. We have a few thousand developers with us here today at Shoreline. Millions more are joining virtually around the world. Thanks to everyone for being here. For those of you who haven't seen I/O before, it's basically Google's version of the Era store, but with fewer costume changes. At Google, though, we are fully in our Gemini era. You'll hear a lot about that today. Before we get into it, I want to reflect on this moment we are in. We've been investing in AI for more than a decade and innovating at every layer of the stack: research, product, infrastructure. We're going to talk about it all today. Still, we are in the very early days of the AI platform shift. We see so much opportunity ahead for creators, for developers, for startups, for everyone. Helping to drive those opportunities is what our Gemini era is all about. So let's get started. A year ago on this stage, we first shared our plans for Gemini, a frontier model built to be natively multimodal from the very beginning that could reason across text, images, video, code, and more. It's a big step in turning any input into any output, an I/O for a new generation. Since then, we introduced the first Gemini models, our most capable yet. They demonstrated state-of-the-art performance on every multimodal benchmark, and that was just the beginning. 2 months later, we introduced Gemini 1.5 Pro, delivering a big breakthrough in long context. It can run 1 million tokens in production consistently, more than any other large-scale foundation model yet. We want everyone to benefit from what Gemini can do. So we have worked quickly to share these advances with all of you. Today, more than 1.5 million developers use Gemini models across our tools. You're using it to debug code, get new insights, and to build the next generation of AI applications. We've also been bringing Gemini's breakthrough capabilities across our products in powerful ways. We'll show examples today across search, photos, workspace, Android, and more. Today, all of our 2 billion user products use Gemini. And we've introduced new experiences too, including on mobile, where people can interact with Gemini directly through the app. Now available on Android and iOS, and through Gemini Advanced, which provides access to our most capable models. Over 1 million people have signed up to try it in just 3 months, and it continues to show strong momentum. One of the most exciting transformations with Gemini has been in Google Search. In the past year, we've answered billions of queries as part of our search generative experience. People are using it to search in entirely new ways and asking new types of questions, longer and more complex queries, even searching with photos, and getting back the best the web has to offer. We've been testing this experience outside of labs, and we are encouraged to see not only an increase in search usage, but also an increase in user satisfaction. I'm excited to announce that we'll begin launching this fully revamped experience, AI Overviews, to everyone in the US this week, and we'll bring it to more countries soon. There's so much innovation happening in search. Thanks to Gemini, we can create much more powerful search experiences, including within our products. Let me show you an example in Google Photos. We launched Google Photos almost 9 years ago. Since then, people have used it to organize their most important memories. Today, that amounts to more than 6 billion photos and videos uploaded every single day. And people love using photos to search across their life. With Gemini, we are making that a whole lot easier. Say you're at a parking station ready to pay, but you can't recall your license plate number. Before, you could search photos for keywords and then scroll through years' worth of photos looking for the right one. Now, you can simply ask Photos. It knows the cars that appear often, it triangulates which one is yours, and just tells you the license plate number. And Ask Photos can also help you search your memories in a deeper way. For example, you might be reminiscing about your daughter Lucia's early milestones. You can ask Photos, when did Lucia learn to swim? You can even follow up with something more complex. Show me how Lucia's swimming has progressed. Here, Gemini goes beyond a simple search, recognizing different contexts, from doing laps in the pool, to snorkeling in the ocean, to the text and dates on her swimming certificates, and Photos packages it up all together in a summary. You can really take it all in and relive amazing memories all over again. We are rolling out Ask Photos this summer with more capabilities to come. Unlocking knowledge across formats is why we built Gemini to be multimodal from the ground up. It's one model with all the modalities built in. So not only does it understand each type of input, it finds connections between them. Multimodality radically expands the questions we can ask and the answers we will get back. Long context takes this a step further, enabling us to bring in even more information. Hundreds of pages of text, hours of audio, a full hour of video, or entire code repos. Or if you want, roughly 96 Cheesecake Factory menus. For that many menus, you need a 1 million token context window, now possible with Gemini 1.5 Pro. Developers have been using it in super interesting ways. Let's take a look.
I remember the announcement, the 1 million token context window, and my first reaction was, there's no way they were able to achieve this.
I wanted to test its technical skills. So I uploaded a line chart. It was temperatures between like Tokyo and Berlin and how they vary across the 12 months of the year.
So I got in there and I threw in the Python library that I was really struggling with. And I just asked it a simple question. And it nailed it. It could find specific references to comments in the code and specific requests that people had made and other issues that people had had, but then suggest a fix for it that related to what I was working on?
I immediately tried to kind of crash it. So I took 4 or 5 research papers I had on my desktop. And it's a mind-blowing experience when you add so much text and then you see the kind of amount of tokens you add is not even at half the capacity.
It felt a little bit like Christmas because you saw things kind of peppered up to the top of your feed about like, oh, wow, I built this thing. Or, oh, it's doing this and I would have never expected.
Can I shoot a video of my possessions and turn that into a searchable database? So I ran to my bookshelf and I shot a video just panning my camera along the bookshelf, and I fed the video into the model. It gave me the titles and authors of the books, even though the authors weren't visible on those book spines. And on the bookshelf, there was a squirrel nutcracker sat in front of the book, truncating the title. You could just see the word Site C, and it still guessed the correct book. The range of things you can do with that is almost unlimited.
And so at that point, for me, it was just like a click, like, this is it.
I thought like I had like a superpower in my hands.
It was poetry. It was beautiful. I was so happy. It just, this is going to be amazing. This is going to help people.
This is kind of where the future of language models are going. Personalized to you, not because you trained it to be personal to you, but personal to you because you can give it such a vast understanding of who you are.
We've been rolling out Gemini 1.5 Pro with long context in preview over the last few months. We made a series of quality improvements across translation, coding, and reasoning. You'll see these updates reflected in the model starting today. I'm excited to announce that we are bringing this improved version of Gemini 1.5 Pro to all developers globally. In addition, today, Gemini 1.5 Pro with 1 million context is now directly available for consumers in Gemini Advanced and can be used across 35 languages. 1 million tokens is opening up entirely new possibilities. It's exciting, but I think we can push ourselves even further. So today, we are expanding the context window to 2 million tokens. We are making it available for developers in private preview. It's amazing to look back and see just how much progress we have made in a few months. This represents the next step on our journey towards the ultimate goal of infinite context. Okay, so far we have talked about 2 technical advances, multimodality and long context. Each is powerful on its own, but together they unlock deeper capabilities and more intelligence. Let's see how this comes to life with Google Workspace. People are always searching their emails in Gmail. We are working to make it much more powerful with Gemini. Let's look at how. As a parent, you want to know everything that's going on with your child's school. Okay, maybe not everything, but you want to stay informed. Gemini can help you keep up. Now we can ask Gemini to summarize all recent emails from the school. In the background, it's identifying relevant emails, even analyzing attachments like PDFs, and you get a summary of the key points and action items. So helpful. Maybe you were traveling this week and you couldn't make the PTA meeting. The recording of the meeting is an hour long. If it's from Google Meet, you can ask Gemini to give you the highlights. There's a parents group looking for volunteers. You're free that day. Of course, Gemini can draft a reply. There are countless other examples of how this can make life easier. Gemini 1.5 Pro is available today in Workspace Labs, and Aparna will share more later on. We just looked at an example with text outputs, but with a multimodal model, we can do so much more. To show you an early demo of an audio output in Notebook LM, here's Josh.
Hey everyone. Last year at I/O, we introduced Notebook LM, a research and writing tool grounded in the information you give it. Since then, we've seen a lot of momentum with students and teachers using it. And today, Gemini 1.5 Pro is coming to Notebook LM, and it's great. Let me show you. So here we are in Notebook LM. You can load it up with all the materials here on the left. In this notebook, I've been using it with my younger son, and I've added some of his science worksheets, a few slide decks from his teacher, and even an open source textbook full of charts and diagrams. With 1.5 Pro, it instantly creates this notebook guide with a helpful summary and can generate a study guide, an FAQ, or even quizzes. But for my son, Jimmy, he really learns best when he can listen to something. So we've prototyped a new feature with Gemini, and it's called Audio Overviews. Notebook LM is going to take all the materials on the left as input and output them into a lively science discussion personalized for him. Let's take a listen.
So let's dive into physics. What's on deck for today?
Well, we're starting with the basics, force and motion.
Okay.
And that, of course, means we have to talk about Sir Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion.
Ah, yes, the foundation for understanding how objects move and interact.
Ah, yes, this is where multimodal really shines. Now, it generated this audio discussion based on that text material. And what's amazing is that my son and I can join into the conversation and steer it whichever direction we want. When I tap join.
Hold on, we have a question. What's up, Josh?
Yeah, can you give my son Jimmy a basketball example?
Hey, Jimmy! That's a fantastic idea. Basketball is actually a great way to visualize force and motion. Let's break it down.
Okay, so first, imagine a basketball just sitting there on the court. It's not moving, right? That's because all the forces acting on it are balanced. The downward pull of gravity.
Pretty cool, right? I gotta say, the first time my son heard this, you should have seen how big his eyes got, because he was gripped. They were talking to him. He was learning science through the example of basketball, his favorite sport. Now, what's interesting is under the hood, you saw that Gemini had used some of the concepts of gravity, Sir Isaac Newton, but nothing in there was about basketball. It connected the dots and created that age-appropriate example for him. And this is what's becoming possible with the power of Gemini. You can give it lots of information in any format, and it can be transformed in a way that's personalized and interactive for you. Back to you, Sundar.
Thanks, George. The demo shows the real opportunity with multimodality. Soon you'll be able to mix and match inputs and outputs. This is what we mean when we say it's an I/O for a new generation. And I can see you all out there thinking about the possibilities. But what if we could go even further? That's one of the opportunities we see with AI agents. Let me take a step back and explain what I mean by that. I think about them as intelligent systems that show reasoning, planning, and memory, are able to think multiple steps ahead, work across software and systems, all to get something done on your behalf, and most importantly, under your supervision. We are still in the early days, and you'll see glimpses of our approach throughout the day. But let me show you the kinds of use cases we are working hard to solve. Let's start with shopping. It's pretty fun to shop for shoes, and a lot less fun to return them when they don't fit. Imagine if Gemini could do all the steps for you, searching your inbox for the receipt, locating the order number from your email, filling out a return form, and even scheduling a pickup. That's much easier, right? Let's take another example that's a bit more complex. Say you just moved to Chicago. You can imagine Gemini and Chrome working together to help you do a number of things to get ready, organizing, reasoning, synthesizing on your behalf. For example, you will want to explore the city and find services nearby, from dry cleaners to dog walkers. You'll have to update your new address across dozens of websites. Gemini can work across these tasks and will prompt you for more information when needed, so you're always in control. That part is really important as we prototype these experiences. We are thinking hard about how to do it in a way that's private, secure, and works for everyone. These are simple use cases, but they give you a good sense of the types of problems we want to solve by building intelligent systems that think ahead, reason, and plan all on your behalf. The power of Gemini with multimodality, long context, and agents brings us closer to our ultimate goal, making AI helpful for everyone. We see this as how we will make the most progress against our mission, organizing the world's information across every input, making it accessible via any output, and combining the world's information with the information in your world in a way that's truly useful for you. To fully realize the benefits of AI, we'll continue to break new ground. Google DeepMind is hard at work. To share more, please welcome for the first time on the I/O stage, Sir Demis.
Thanks, John. I enjoyed the conversation going in the chat. Just to make sure John Sturman is still well connected, because sometimes in the Hudson Valley, things happen. You're muted. So you switched your voice source.
There we go. Yes, I had turned off my microphone. Sorry, everybody. So we will watch Sir Demi in a little while if we have time. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask about what you just saw?
And again, we just watched a little bit, a small piece of the event, and it's worth to watch each and every episode. We will put some links in the chat.
I think I signed up for the 2 million context window on Gemini Pro. Is that the same thing as multimodal?
Yes. The 2 million context is just is part of Gemini 1.1.5 Pro Advanced. And so, yeah, yep. So all that's available. Good question. Thank you. Other questions from anybody?
With our workshop, hands-on workshop run by Roya, we will learn how to connect, how to do all these things, hands-on.
All right. So without further ado, let me introduce Roya Kandalan. She's here joining us from Boston and is a very capable, dedicated woman. We're really happy to have her. Roya.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I always blush when you are when you say that. I'm like, okay, you are just too kind to me. I really appreciate for the invite, and I'm really glad to be among all of you and discuss AI. I think that's the topic of the day, so why not to dig a little bit further? I prepared two pieces of presentation for today. One piece is mainly about generative AI and a general idea of what it is and somewhat how it works, but mainly to focus on what are the dangers and what are the benefits of having it. Because I believe if we have basically a proper idea of what it is and how it works, we have a better feeling on like how to make the best use of it and how also to prevent any damages. And then I also prepared a workshop based on AI Studio. If you feel comfortable, you can follow along, or you can, everything is recorded and I can provide you with the content so you can try it on your own. So without further ado, let me actually share my screen so we can dive in. Okay. So as you see, the first piece that I prepared was to answer, I think, a very hot question at least a couple of months ago, that will generative AI terminate us? The idea came to my mind when somebody really close to me, which I obviously didn't have many like technological chat with, he came to me and he mentioned that scientists, AI engineers, they are building all of these AI applications, but the reality is that in a few years or so, there would be robots marching down the street and terminating us all because these AIs are going to be sentient. So knowing that that's impression of AI is so far from the truth, but it also was an awakening moment for me to realize that there are so many people who are not really knowledgeable about what is generative AI. And just because ChatGPT becomes so prevalent so quickly, people are getting a wrong idea and they might react not in the most, I think, appropriate way. So I provided this presentation to basically discuss this matter and figure out what are the actually benefits and what are the real risks that we should be aware of. Before I dive in, let me tell you a little bit about myself after the beautiful, beautiful introduction by John. As he mentioned, my name is Roya, and it means a very sweet dream in Farsi. I studied in electrical engineering under the supervision of Professor Kamishna Muduri, and he is a well-known scientist for his work in unmanned airborne vehicles. Currently, I work as a senior scientist in generative AI at this Cigna group, and I'm also a basically Google developer expert in AI and ML. I'm a Women Tech Maker ambassador, and I'm also a GDG Cloud organizer in Boston. So if you were in town, I would be more than happy to grab a coffee and chat. And I also highly recommend and suggest to look up the Women Tech Maker Ambassador program. if you are a man, a woman, or a non-binary person, this is a community to enable women and non-binary people to really thrive and grow in their career. So I think that's a really good community to be a part of. Now let's dive in. So what is generative AI? Right? That's the main question. Generative AI is the type of AI, the type of artificial intelligence that can create and generate content. What is the difference between the generative AI and what we were using as AI before? If you recall, and if you were part of this field, I think in 2014, 20, actually in 2012, the talk of the town was to how we can classify images. So if we have a bunch of images of cats and dogs, how we can say which one is cat and which one is dog. Previous advancement of AI, the idea was to build basically features and realize what feature would increase the chance of a of an existence of a certain animal. So if we have, let's say, pointy ears, that would increase the chance of that animal in the picture to be, for example, a cat. But if we have a lot of fur, that would increase the chance of that animal to be a dog. A little bit later, we had this idea of convolutional neural network, which I don't want to really get into, but it automated how we are defining those features. So with convolutional neural network, we didn't look for features. It did it for us. Now we are one step further. We are providing these models with a lot of examples. So in a scale, we are going significantly larger, but now the model has the information of what this type of what features would belong to the certain animal or certain entity in general. Obviously, if we look into just text data, we are generating a text generating model, something like Palm or GPT or Gemini, but there are multimodality, which I will get to later on. We can train them with a lot of images, and we have a model that can generate new content, which are images. So if you ask it what is a dog, it can generate you the picture of a dog, like Imagen by Google, like DALL-E by OpenAI, like Stable Diffusion. You can add AI code assistant, something like Cody or now Google AI Assistant or Google GitHub Copilot, that this model have been trained with a lot of basically codes. And then you have all of them together as multimodalities, which will end up to be Gemini, for example, or GPT, any of the GPTs, I think, after GPT-2. What are the benefits of this generative AI? So let's always start with a good note. First and foremost, I think the most impact that our society would benefit from is through education. I think education is not available to everybody, and those of us who can actually have an education are absolutely privileged. Access to education and access to good tutor and professors is really limited and unfortunately really expensive. But with generative AI, we actually can provide a customized, personalized education for people to cover both the cost, to limit and mitigate both the cost, and also to make up for all of the nuances that people have when they are studying and they are learning. Some of us are better listeners, some of us are visual learner. We can actually cover all of those details and be really delicate when we want to teach somebody. On top of that, we can have a skill assessment. I don't know if you are familiar with Duolingo. That's an application for teaching languages. But during COVID, when none of the standard English tests were available, Duolingo started using generative AI to basically ask questions appropriate to the level of the students. And it was revolutionary because now people didn't need to go to a center. it can be expanded to any other type of material. So skill assessment are also done by generative AI. The second discipline that would be highly benefited from generative AI, in my opinion, is medicine. Um, Anything from precision medicine, diagnosis, and telemedicine would be significantly helpful to humans. When you are dealing with precision medicine, I want you to think about a simple example. There are people who are afraid of getting into an MRI machine, but they are suffering from cancer. MRI machine can be more informative when you are trying to identify where a tumor is located and how to basically distribute the radiation to actually just impact that tumor. These people can actually go and have a CT scan, which is less frightening in somewhat because it's not a hole anymore that you go in. It's not like a tunnel. And with generative AI, we can have an image to image translation or 3D image to 3D image translation to get this CT and turn them to something close to an MRI, which is helping people who are not able to actually go to an MRI machine. You can have a lot of diagnosis algorithm also, and you can have all of these viruses and protein structure to be um, looked into and figure out which ones can be beneficial to people. I think recently AlphaFold 3 was actually introduced to scientists. And the reason that this is so amazing is because it can cover a wider range of all of the structure of protein and other type of other type of structures that can be really helpful for medicine production. And lastly, I think telemedicine can be really helpful. It can be helpful in developed country because it reduces the amount of work that medical staff and medical doctors are going through. So a lot of our problem can be solved if we have an informative chatbot. But at the same time, it can be really useful for underdeveloped country where the access to medical facilities are really limited, and then having a chatbot that is even somewhat informed can be life-saving. Um, in third, I think it's not really new to anybody that generative AI can be really creative and help us with our creativity. It can generate new artistic images, it can help us with content, and also be a really good writing assistant. By now, I think you have noticed that I make some mistakes when I talk because English is not my mother tongue. But when I write my LinkedIn post, I never have any grammar mistake. The magic is using a lot of generative AI. I don't ask it to write for me, but I definitely ask it to help me to make sure that the content doesn't have any grammar issues and also the wording is sophisticated and nice, and I don't use like redundant words in my posts, which has been really handy to me. I also wrote a poem using I think one of these chatbots because I had an idea and they just put it together for me, so it was amazing. And the last one that I wanted to touch base on is the impact of generative AI on robotics. The picture on this slide is Eureka, which was introduced I think a few months ago, and that was where NVIDIA were able to use generative AI to extract basically a set of action for a robot finger to be able to rotate a pen in them like basically like this, which is a really hard problem to solve because you have to make an action for each of the fingers, for all of the joints. It's harder to do, it's harder to code, but just because we were able to like put together all of the different actions, we were able to do it. And obviously, robotic can be really helpful because a lot of jobs that are dangerous for humans and are really redundant and laborsome can be now translated to something that robots can do. what I said so far were all of the good things that generative AI can do for us. But I'm a scientist, and I don't think as a scientist I can neglect the risks and the issues that come with the new technologies. And I would argue that there we have very minimum technologies that just purely were beneficial and didn't have any risk. But let's look together. What are the risks of using generative AI? First and foremost, you can talk about the ethical issues and the bias inherent into generative AI. The reason that I say this bias is inherent and is natural to generative AI is because we are using a huge corpus of information that was taken from internet and a lot of books and everything. But this data, a lot of it is not proper data, it's not good data, and we are in a daily basis we are dealing with people who are not the nicest stuff nicest self when they are posting on internet, and they might show some biases or some unfairness or unkindness, and all of that would actually bled into our models, and we see those type of behavior and pattern into the behavior of our models. So it's not that generative AI is bad or AI in general is biased. It's because we didn't spend enough of time to make sure that the data doesn't carry historic bias and unfairness, and we actually let all of that uh, stay inside our data. One of the hurtful, I think, examples is if you ask an image generation model or a text generation model about a scientist or an MD, most certainly they will come up with a male who is an MD and a female who is a nurse, or a male who is a scientist and a female who is an assistant, which shows a lot of inequality and discriminations. Second, if this video goes on, if you pay attention to the tagline, to the title of this, it says, "A streak like the rest of us, robot collapse under pressure at exhibition." Um, this is a snippet of a video that in more technical communities circulated as a technical glitch made a robot collapse. But when I was talking with a few people who are not really technical, I realized that actually the way that they saw this video was with this title that actually implies that this robot has been sentient. We are introducing social media manipulation just using generative AI. This is a tiny little example because actually this recording is real and only the title is decisive. It's like trying to tell a fake
Deceitful.
title. Yes, exactly. Sorry, the wording is hard a little bit. But we also coming to a era that right now the content is not really trustworthy anymore. They can easily lie to us, and there is no way to figure out. It's an arm race to figure out what content is generated and what content is actually real. A lot of companies are trying to watermark the content that they are generating, but you always have this information that being generated with open source model that are not generated, they are not built by major companies. So it would be absolutely hard to for certain say a piece of content is fake or real. And I want to add in here that we are living in this world of social media, and a lot of our friends and communities are people that we are finding and we are getting to know through this social media. But the algorithm that makes us to send to have to see somebody in our close circle is based on what makes us engage more with that content and what those people are engaging more. So if there are two people who would interact with a certain content, these people would be matched, and you would see somewhat of a notification that okay, maybe you want to like be friend with this person. The same way that Netflix, for example, recommends to you that to see what type of movies. And when you are matched, when you have a group of friends, then the content that is provided to you is based on what makes these groups in general to interact more with the content. So even if you are not directly interested in something, but somebody that is in your close friend is interested in, uh, based on some similarities, those content would be basically shown to you. This is not I think the more harmful side of it. The harm comes from you never seeing somebody who thinks opposite of you would have been saying. So never in my timeline would this video come up with saying that, implying that basically a robot was stressed out. I would never see in my timeline that robots are sentient, but people might see those sort of contents only because of the way that they interacted with the other content. Okay, what is the problem? It puts us in digital silos. So you never get to know the other person's point of view. There is no town hall anymore to go and sit together and chat and figure out what this other person is doing. And that's where a lot of conflicts happen. Passing that, one of the most real problem that would come up with generative AI and this wave of having sentiment analysis is job shift. A lot of what we can do right now, and unfortunately, a lot of people who don't have the chance of going uh, to universities because it's expensive and it's a privilege, and they wasn't able to gain those privilege, are deprived of, and they have to like I stay in these jobs. Those sort of jobs would be eliminated. A lot of labor intensive job would be eliminated. Driving vehicles, people who are artists and writers, those jobs would be in danger. And we need to be ready for this labor market disruption. I want you to think about it the same way as a telegram has been replaced by telephone and now mobile. So none of those people who would actually like connect the telegram or like read the telegram or would connect the lines in the telephone center have a job after these changes had happened. And it brings me to the next point that a lot of skill set would be also varying. I I hear in my group of friends that they are worried that the software development job might not be the same as it is right now. A lot of the code, like let's say lead code practices, would not have the same value that they do right now. The slide that I put, the figure I put in this slide is from this amazing, amazing, highly recommended movie called Hidden Figure, which is the idea of NASA using women as people who do computation, but then NASA had bought a computer from IBM, and all of these people would have been jobless if it was not for this lady who is in this character who took it upon herself to go and teach everybody on how to do programming, and they were the group that switched job from being basically doing computation with a piece of paper and pen to people who do the programming of the IBM computer. Another aspect of the issues that come to the picture is the cybersecurity crimes. Uh, Me myself, I've been burnt with the phishing attacks. People who send me a message and they just wanted to rob your money, but it's hard. It's maybe happened like once in my life. But if somebody has the information of me, has my digital footprint, And a lot of us know about all of these data breaches from major companies. So they have my social, they have my birthday, they have my name, they have, excuse me for a second. They have access to my wants and needs and desire because they see my interaction and behavior with different posts on social media. They can make this perfect, flawless scheme to actually figure out what is my weakest spot and point on that and make me to pay as much money as they want. Up to this point, an scammer might figure out who is an elder person who doesn't know enough about technology or are really, really loving their children, that they are not thinking straight when asked for ransom money or any like for money for those children. But now it can be for any of us. I was at a conference recently and somebody made a $20 million transaction because they thought that the boss asked them to make that transaction. You're talking $20 million. I'm like, okay, that's a lot. But that's one of the vulnerabilities that's happening with Gen AI. And lastly, we have these legal and regularity issues and challenges that come with generative AI. There are two sides to this coin. One side of it is who is responsible for the error of a generative or an AI decision. Suppose we have the self-driving cars. We have telemedicine and a lot of the diagnosis happening with AI. Who is liable for AI making a mistake? Recently, I think you followed it in the news that a chatbot for one of these airlines made a promise to pay basically some money to a customer, which was not a part of what that company would actually do. So, should the company pay? Should the model owner pay? Who is in charge? And the other aspect of this is who owns the copyright, whether it's the AI generate the person who put the prompt, whether it's the company who built the model, or whether it's the people who actually had their data being used to train this model. With that being said, let's think about what are some methods that we can use to actually reduce some of these risks. First and foremost is emphasizing on the usage of ethical and responsible AI. I don't work for Google, but I really appreciate them for following 7 principles that if these 7 principles aren't met, Google is not going to basically focus and invest in a product. So this product must be socially beneficial, must be um, not must be avoiding creating unfair biases. It must be definitely tested. It must be accountable. It certainly has to be worried of the privacy of people and have to uphold to high scientific standard. And lastly, should be available for people. So one of the things that Google doesn't do, for example, is Google does not do a major facial recognition platform, a general facial recognition because of all of the surveillance application that it can have. So it is an ethical and responsible action, in my opinion. It's also for us or for major companies to start using cyber security basically solutions that utilizes generative AI. The same way that the attacker and the hacker can use generative AI to harm us, we can actually make ourselves to be stronger using generative AI. And as an informed society, we can have the governments to actually look into these AI initiatives and make sure that we have regulations and laws that basically protects our privacy, protects our security, makes sure that we are living in a world that AI is beneficial to everybody. As people, as individuals, also there are certain things that we can do to make sure that future is bright. And the risks and the harm of AI is not actually going to hurt us. First and foremost, stay informed. Continuously educate yourself about AI because we require to have an educated society to make sure that AI is beneficial for everyone. And advocate for ethical AI. We need to have people on the top to make sure that ethical AI is actually a voice in the C-suite, is a voice where the decision is being made, not just a nagging voice in the background. We need to encourage for responsible regulation. We need to request and ask all of the people who are in the government and they have the power to pay attention to AI and educate themselves and make the laws that actually make sense. Certain laws might just be for a solution really shorthand in a short term, but we need to make laws that saves us from the harm of AI in long run. We need to make sure that we are promoting inclusivity. No matter how nice the people who make the decision are, if there is not diversity in them, they are not able to see all of the corner cases. We need people from all of the spectrum of genders, all of the different backgrounds, all of the races, all of the religions to actually be and see what is how these basically products are being generated. I heard about a funny story that a team were generating when there was the phone when the phone were having were when phone had fingerprint sensors, they only tested it with men, and then when they wanted to actually build it in large, they asked a few women to test it and none of them could because they didn't make up the production team didn't make up for the long nails. So making sure that we have people from diverse background is a must. We need to engage in public discussion. All of those digital silos that I talked about, they will be broken and we would be freed from this digital prison if we start talking with each other. No matter how much somebody's opinion are far from us, just hearing their thought makes us to think about our own and maybe what we are thinking is not right. But I have been wrong or I had a wrong opinion so many times. Nothing goes wrong if we just realize that maybe something we think is not the best one. And lastly, it's to adapt and thrive. The only thing that is fixed is change. Change always happens, and we cannot stay and say and protect ourselves from the change. So the only thing that we can do is not to be an stiff branch, but to be somebody who adapts to the change and learns and grows. With that being said, I want you to think about this quote that somebody told me that fear biological ignorance more than artificial intelligence. This is the first section of my presentation, and I stay for let's have a 5 minutes questions if somebody wants to have a question about it, and then we continue with Gemini and a workshop. Thank you.
So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask, or you can also throw it right into the chat and we'll read it out. Anybody?
And I think I trust there is a time to answer the questions already we received.
Yeah, those weren't specifically about Roya's presentation, and I wanted to see if anyone wants to ask Roya anything. Roya, someone was interested in getting involved with people in AI and ML in Boston, and so I put in a link to Google Cloud Boston. So,
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to tell? Can you tell us something about your group and what people can expect to be when they participate?
We have a group of 5 people. Locus and Joe, they are both GDE in cloud and also cloud champions. We have Norbert, he's a data scientist and he's also a cloud champion. And Melody, she's a data scientist and woman take maker. And I am the kiddo in the group, so I make all of the troubles and they try to deal with it. We have actually a lot of events coming up. So apart from the Built with AI series of events that we are hosting right now, I think, a Road to Database Engineer, if I'm not mistaken. I highly recommend you joining the group and enjoy all of these events. There will be an IO extended in July, hopefully, and then in late July, we will start a Road to ML certificate uh, for 12 weeks. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Oh, that's
We
great,
do a
Roya.
lot of events, but it comes like we usually like prepare for 2 months in advance. One thing for sure is there will be a Grand Dev Fest, but that would happen later in the year. But our Grand IO Extended would happen late July, so stay tuned.
Just for
That's great, Roya.
confirmation, IO extended. Let's define that.
So this event that we're doing right now is an IO extended. It's an opportunity to get a recap of what Google is rolling out, and different groups are providing a different spin on that. And so, we're obviously having Roya talk about AI, and she's going to do a workshop with us. And so, can you tell us anything about Roya? Can you tell us anything about the Boston IO extended that you're going to do?
So we merged an IO extended and Next extended together. A few of us, a few of organizers attended both, and we usually invite a few of the developers who are not immediately a part of this group, but they've been in both of these events. So last year we invited, I don't know if you recall, but Alice Killer and Lucas Carson, both of them were the keynote speaker at Next, and we had invited them in person. And then for the IO Extended, we had a speaker from Google, we had a speaker from the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, and they discussed what was basically announced at IO that they are actually utilizing in their work. This year we have the same structure in mind, but we haven't confirmed with all of our basically speakers, so I keep it as a secret for now, but stay tuned.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. So Roya, what do you have in store for us?
Let me answer this last question, which somebody put here. Can you talk about the part of AI on MRI scan again? I missed that part. Sure. That was actually a project really close to my heart. For some of my background, I work in a cancer center, and that was one of the project worked there. It was not my immediate project. I think I was involved with it, but I was not the lead. If you know how the MRI machine is, it looks like a tunnel, and people go in there, and some people are fearing from a closed type of like container like that, and some people had different type of issues, if somebody has implants in their body, that's cause issue with MRI. If people are their physics cannot fit into the machine, that can cause issue. There is a certain basically volume that fits into the machine, so that can cause issue. So the workaround is instead of having the MRI for the people, you translate the CT to look like an MRI, to be more to actually show all of those variation of the organs, and also to be more precise. But obviously, and CT is way faster than an MRI. MRI takes a few hours, but CT is way quicker. So this translation would help a lot. And what was happening is not exactly as the architecture of generative AI right now, what you are seeing as like a diffusion model or as a transformer. The architecture was actually a unit, and I can get deeper into the architecture, but I don't know how familiar you are with this type of architecture, but think about like getting everything in a tiny bit of vectors and then translating it to an MRI. So you go from a CT to a really tiny vector and then extract the MRI out of it. You can add me on LinkedIn, and if you have particular questions, I can really get deep into it. If there is not any other questions, I continue with the presentation. Okay.
All right, go Roya. Thank you.
Okay, part 2. Let's dive deeper into the Gemini, which is Google multimodality generative AI model. I wanted to focus on large language models here, which is I think the short version is LLM. The way they work is the same as if you have a autocomplete system. With an autocomplete, every time you are making a decision about the next value, exactly the next value. So now, if you have a very, very, very accurate system, you can feed that next value to the input. And now, instead of, for example, having a four-word sentence as an input, you added that output for the 4-word, and now you have 5 words, and you are deciding what is the 6th word. So what you see on the slide here, it says it's raining cats, and so what is the most probable word that would come after and in here? So obviously there are a few options. We have the word dog with 0.9%, and there could be rain with 0.03. Actually, I think that we have the word dog with 90%, and then we have rain with 3%, we have drops with 2%, fish with 1%, and wind with less than 1%, right? And this really is not a smart, but this really highly trained model knows to pick the highest probability. So it chooses dog, which is 90% accurate. So now we can go back and say, if I had it's raining cats and dogs, what would be the next word? And if the probability of that next word, the confidence of that next word is not high enough, then we are like, we stop the production and we call it a day and we say, okay, this is my sentence. If not, we can continue it. So for example, here, first, these 3 different words with a comma were fed to the model. Roses are red. As people, what is the next word to you? I would kindly request you to put it in the chat for me, please. Nobody want to put anything in the chat? Okay, I continue. Okay, thank you, Marshall. I appreciate it. The next immediate word would have been violets. And then if I would input roses are red, violets, the next word would have been R, and obviously the whole thing would be generated that roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet. I didn't know sugar is sweet as a part of it, and in one of my talks, somebody actually showed me this is coming from a lyrics of a really, I think, popular music, but it was it is obviously an English music, so I didn't know about it. The same practice can go for a code. So if I put for variable of I equal 0 and basically that comma dot, the rest would be obviously when you are writing Java code, it's a given that you want to have a basically a stopping point and a way to increase the value of I. So what makes this model work is they are significantly large. They are impressively large. And the reason that we can go this large is because of all of the compute that is accessible to us. We went from couple of hundreds of GPU, couple of hundred bytes of GPU to GPUs that can handle gigabytes and terabytes of computation. And you always need to think about all of these models being matrices. And matrix is a fancy way of saying a grid of numbers. So there are basically a bunch of number that their location has a meaning, and we can multiply them to each other. And to multiply them with each other, we need CPUs or GPUs, and GPUs allowed us to do it in parallel. So because we have this compute in the form of GPUs and now TPU, which is tensor processing units, we can have this immensely large language model. And the second thing that makes this model large is the amount of data that they have been trained with. When I was a student and I was working on this type of project, the number of samples to work with were less than 1,000. And when the ImageNet by Dr. Fei-Fei Li from Stanford came to picture, they were talking about 1.5 million images, and that was immense. That was like so big. But these models right now, they have access to all of the content of internet. Now think about how much that can be and how much information they are actually grasping. Classical natural language processing was able to still do some progress. So even before Transformer, even before Palm, before 2017, we had Twitter blocking certain type of tweets, and I refuse to call it X. We call it Twitter. We still had Google Translate, we had entity extraction, we had summarization, but they were really limited and they were hardly, they required so much practice to actually code them. If you were at the beginning of my talk, I talked about how we went from deciding the features of what defines a cat and what defines a dog to using convolutional neural network to identify these feature maps, this series of basically attributes that makes an animal a certain animal. That was the same practice for this type of problem. So for example, for sentiment analysis, we would calculate the probability of a text being positive or negative based on the correlation, the chance of certain word being in that sentence that would add a positive or negative impact. So if I would say, I don't know, this restaurant is really good, that would increase the chance of it being really a really good restaurant or a good sentence, a positive sentence. But then I could trick the system by saying this restaurant was really good, but be sarcastic and then add explanation mark and question mark, but so it threw off the model. But now large language model can do all of that, but they can do all of that really fast because through learning all of these autocomplete, they found the relationship between different values, and each word has certain impact on other words. So we can make a better sense of what is the sentiment of a sentence, what is how to summarize it, what some values are, whether some words are more important or not, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, they make this prototyping really, really fast because you do not require to have sophisticated background in knowing exactly how to do, for example, natural language processing task. You can ask it anything. You can ask it to explain you a joke, and it does a very good job. And one of the applications in my mind is to have something, a large language model, to explain slangs and jokes for non-English speaker. Because I personally, I don't know the slang, I don't know the jokes. I'm always a dumb person who doesn't understand things. And that application, which takes a large language model and trains it to understand jokes and slang, would be absolutely phenomenal. The other is to ask it to give you new ideas. It's able to generate new content. I want you to pay attention that we are talking about two really new applications. We are talking about sentiment analysis in the form of having a tiny bit of prompt and realizing what it is about, and also to having a tiny bit of a prompt and coming up with new ideas that is not fully provided in the context of that prompt. So for example, if you have a child and you're required to have idea for their science fair project, you can ask the model, and given that this model has seen all of the internet, it can go back and figure out what is a few good ideas. So to summarize, these large language model are able to do search, are able to do conversation, and are able to do content generation. I want to pay attention that they are doing a way better search than the search that we had before. When we were doing the search before, we were limited to the keyword search. So if I would ask any of the search engines sooner, before this time, before this era, to provide me some information, the information was based on matching the values in the search basically box and matching it against what was common in an article. So again, being somebody with I think limited English proficiency, uh, it wasn't a struggle for me to figure out what is the good keyword to ask. I always would ask my fellows to figure out what are the keywords that they are using to actually look out for example, for articles. But now we passed that era, because now we can have it to do sentient analysis and then match between the meaning of what I'm asking, whereas against what is available on the internet. We can have conversation, so we can have it understand what we want and have a memory of what we've been talking about. It's not a really large memory, but it depends on the number of token that you have, which I will get back to. And we can also have content generation the same way that we had it for previous models, so anything like Palm or Imagine or anything. The progress of large language model is deep, I think, correlated with what Google did. In 2015, for example, Google DeepMind started basically they introduced AlphaGo. In 2017, they introduced this very amazing paper called Attention is All You Need. And that was the kickstart of LLM because it introduced the idea of transformer. And the idea was to the same way that as human we pay attention to certain words, and when they come together they changed that they provide us with a context. We are we are basically providing a mathematical algorithm to do the same thing. So just as an example, if I ask you to go and buy an apple, although I think everybody would buy fruits, but there is an ambiguity to it that maybe I'm asking for an iPhone. But if I say go and buy an like Apple phone, you know immediately that I'm asking for an iPhone. And if I ask go and buy apples and oranges, you know immediately that I'm talking about fruits. What gives away my intention is the two words coming together. So apple and phone makes you to exactly know what I'm talking about, and apples and oranges makes you exactly know what I'm talking about. This correlation that you have in your mind using transformer is translated to some mathematical formula, some numbers that is understandable for the models. And from 2017 and afterwards, it was just Google making this technology better and better. And I want to also emphasize that I don't think being the first to the market matters as much if you are making sure that your product is responsible and ethical. When this talk has started, I believe somebody asked about multimodality. And what multimodality is exactly how we think about different entities in our mind. So if I ask, when I was talking about a cat, in your brain, um, the shape of multiple cats, the written way of a cat, the sound of a cat, all of them would would come together. You are not, they are not really far, staying apart from each other. Multimodality is to make sure that we are coding all of these different modalities, voice, video, images, and sound, to locate in the same location in a space called latent space. So we want everything to be one, numbers, and two, we want these numbers to stay close to each other. And then it enables us to go from one modality to the other one, because these vectors of number actually are staying close to each other. So the same way that we could go from a word to a different word, and we could basically translate and map this wording together, now we can map from a word to an image, or an image to a word, and so on and so forth. So this is the Gemini era, and we exactly can do that. So we can go between different modalities. So do you see my cursor by any chance? Can somebody say yes or no in the...
No, I don't see your cursor.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
I
you.
do. I do see your cursor. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this space, this is a resemblance of what I'm talking about, a latent space. And each of these 3 by 3 matrices is a way of translating a word or a sentence or a picture to a bunch of numbers, and then we try to put all of them that belong to the same entity close to each other, and then we borrow from that to generate the output. Gemini has Ultra, Gemini has Pro, and Gemini has Nano, and this is just the size of the model. I think Ultra is accessible to some, Pro is accessible to all, and Nano is accessible on the edge devices. So if you want to have a model that is accessible on an Android and you don't want to like constantly contact the server, that's what you would use. There is also Gamma, which is an open source model provided by Google. If you are interested, definitely check it out. An open source model enables you to basically keep your data to yourself and have a full control over your system. Gemini, as we saw in the I/O recap at the beginning, is provided ease of use for a variety of different users. It's useful for the customer when they are incorporating it into app, into Google, into Workspace, all of those cool things, to basically go to the email and figure out what it wants, or go to the doc and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, please do this job. It's also available to the developers. So there is an API that we can use in Google AI Studio, and that's what we will be doing today. And it's also available for businesses for certain practices in Vertex AI and as such. So if you feel comfortable, I recommend looking up this webpage. It's aistudio.google.com. So I put it here too, aistudio.google.com. If you open that link, you should see a web page that looks like what I show you on the picture. Would you show a thumbs up or thumbs down so I know if I should follow or continue, or if you want me to wait and you are not there yet?
I see it. I'm good to go.
Okay. I give 1 more minute for people who want to log in. Thank you. Thank you. I see all of the thumbs up. I appreciate it. I see the +1. Thank you. So on the side, you should see a model, and that's the type of model that you can use. And then in the middle, that's the same, almost the same as if you were accessing Gemini through a web page. So if you are like opening a Chat GPT, or you are opening Chat Gemini and you are asking for, hey, anything, that's the same type of access with a little bit of more freedom for you and less heuristic on top of it. So when you are using it, for example, in Gemini web page, there are multiple heuristic to make sure that the content that is provided to user is up to some certain standard, but here you are seeing a more raw version of it. On the top right corner, there is a snippet, there is this button that gives you the snippet of code that you could use to generate the same content as if you were using this web page. So if you click on that, you will see a pop-up of a get code, and then it gives you the code in multiple languages. Python is my favorite, so here is the Python version. And then to actually start, you need to have a get API key, and you need to produce your own API key. There will be another session on June 22nd, and we will be providing you with credits to use that. But if you feel comfortable, you can actually do it and associate it with a new project. And I will also show that.
We'll give some more details about the June 22nd event when Roy is all done. It's a great event and everybody should be coming.
Thank you. So this is, again, do you see this page? So now I'm actually in the AI
Yep.
studio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to start, you will go to get API key, and most probably you will not have this box in the middle if this is your first time that you are using it. You will create an API key, and it asks for you for basically a Google Cloud project. And I have a bunch, but if you don't have any, you can actually generate a project in here. If it didn't let you to generate the project, you can go to the Google Cloud Platform. So you can go to console. And then you can create a project here. So you go to the console, cloudgoogle.com, and then new project. But be informed that it asks for your, I think it might ask for your credit card. So do it on your own risk. I don't think that it's gonna charge you, but I also don't know for a fact. Sorry.
It all depends on what they do. I mean, if you don't do, if you're careful, you won't get any charges. But
yes, exactly. I'm a not so much careful person, so I've been burnt. So when you get this project number, and then you get your API key, you can use it outside of this platform. But inside this platform, now you can do a variety of things. You can do a chat prompt, and that's similar to what you have when basically you are using Gemini. So in Gemini, it's a more beautiful user-friendly basically view of the same thing. As I mentioned, in the side, you have different type of models. So you have different type of Gemini. Flash is something that is announced recently, and it provides you with faster and cheaper, basically, access. And you also have access to Gemini Pro with 2 million context window and 1 million context window. So 2 million context window is about 2 hours worth of video or 60,000 lines of code. So this is huge. There is the number of token here. And if you use Gemini, for example, 1.5, you will still have over 1 million token. And each token is a subset, a piece of your word or a piece of your visual information. So if I type something in here, for example, write a poem about Hudson Valley. Sorry, how do you say right, Hudson Valley?
That's fine what you have. Yep. Just,
Okay.
yep.
Hudson Valley, I don't know, Google developer groups in 10 verses. It should basically run it for you. And if you pay attention, it's 8 token right now. And after generating it, it's become a little bit over or a little bit less than 360 token. And you will be charged based on the number of tokens that you are generating and requesting. And also pay attention that it only took 3.5 seconds. Because I just wanted to play with it, we can do something more fun and do the same thing with Gemini Pro. So this is 3.4 seconds. Let's see how long it takes. And if it's, I don't recall if it gives us the answer or not. Oh, actually it didn't do it. So give me a second. That one was 3.4. And this one is a little bit less than 8 seconds. So Flash is way faster, but the quality is a little bit lower. Let's just read the first one, first 4 verses. In Hudson Valley's verdant embrace, where takes bright minds find their place, a group of coder, keen and bold, with knowledge deep and stories told. So I think that was really good. And for the one with Gemini Pro, where Hudson's water gently flow and mountain rise in a verdant show, a group of minds texture-driven bright, ignite the valley with their light. I think both of them are very, very impressive.
It definitely tells us just the way it is. Just saying.
Oh, lovely, lovely. If you pay attention to what you see in the right side, below the number of tokens, we have the temperature, and that's the creativity allowed in your response. So if you are interested in more absolute and not deterministic, but more careful way of answers, you want this to be closer to 1. But if you are more interested in some creativity in your system, you can go closer to 0. There is this expression add stop sequence. It's mainly used when you are providing question and answering. So you can teach your model, which will be again in my next session, on you can teach your model new things. And one of them would be that, okay, if you see this expression, for example, I don't know, I don't know, like frogs are bread or something, anything that you can think of, the model would generate that, and when it was generated, it would stop no matter what is the probability or confidence of the next word. You have certain safety settings. You have the harassment, hate, sexuality, explicit, and dangerous content. And you can tune these knobs based on what type of content you are providing and what type of application you are building. So obviously, if you are building something for the miners, you are trying to have everything absolutely secure. And if you are not building something for the miners, you can be maybe have them more loose. I just be aware that even if you put everything absolutely to 0, under the hood of this platform, Google still has their own safety measures, so nothing is absolutely 0 in the developer end. You also have the advanced setting. You can have your output in a JSON format, and you can fix the probability or confidence of the next word. So if you are not comfortable with the temperature as giving it all the room for being creative, you can just slightly modify this value, which I don't know why it's not working right now, but you can change it from 0 to 1, which would be the probability of the next word. Let's go back here and then a little bit about basic prompting, which you all already know, so I don't want to go too far in that. It's just that you can basically have anything that you want ask. So for example, you can ask it to write a poem, you can ask it to write a snippet of code, or you can get all of these in the format of code. Let me also show you this one piece too. If I want to have any of these in the format of code, I just press this get code button on the side and I have the whole thing in here. Pay attention that it imports GenAI, Google Generative AI GenAI, and then it asks for my GenAI API key. This is the key that we generated on the top in here, and this is where you will be charged. So if you take this code and run it outside of this basically web page, you will be charged for sure. These are all of the safety settings that I showed you. Temperature top P. There is also this idea of top K, which is the top K values that is generated, and the summation of all of their confidence would be a certain number. So a little bit more than the topic, gives you a little bit more wiggle room. You have the maximum output token. Right now, I just generated about 800 tokens, but with this code, we are putting a block on anything above 8,000 or 8,000 and something, because that's one of the way of making a code crash, because if you don't have this, it just keeps generating and you will be charged, and you also will have a really, really slow system. And then the type of your text would be, the type of your response would be text. You can also do it in the format of chat and as such. The model should match the model that we use here. So this is how you do it. And then you have the configuration here. You start the model, you give it a role, and you can modify it by changing this user on the top to something else. And then the rest is just what we gave to it as like question and answers. With that being said, I just wanted to thank you. It was a really great time I had with you all. You can scan the QR code on the side to join me on LinkedIn, and I would be happy to continue this discussion on LinkedIn if you had any further question. Thank you very much, and I will be available if you have question right now.
Any questions that go ahead? Sorry.
I had a question about printing the generations and the prompts on AI Studio. I don't seem to find a practical way to do it, because if it gives me anything, it'll give me a piece of it, or it'll give me a black background that I can't afford to print with toner. Is there a way to change it to white background with black text?
Actually, I think there was, but I never did something like that. I remember somebody talking about it, that you can change it. Is there a setting in the bottom?
Yes, there is settings.
Okay,
At the bottom, you can do it from light to dark.
Oh, the settings on the left. Oh, I tried the Chrome settings. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, well, it's Chrome. You're dealing with Google AI Studio.
Mm-hmm.
Chrome's just the way you're getting there. So, yeah.
Yep.
That's a good question. I didn't worry. I didn't think about that. Good one.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have questions? This was really useful, Roya. Thank you. I've not played with AI Studio very much. I've been using Gemini right through the chat, which works fine, and I just cut and paste. But just so you know, you can ask Gemini to create a slides for you, or a spreadsheet, or anything else. So you can have that output go right to a doc, a Google Doc.
Where is this, Gemini?
This is Gemini, yeah.
No, you can also go to the gemini.google.com, And then what John is saying is that you can ask it to produce anything and then immediately connect it to Google Sheet or Google Doc. So for example, build a table of 10 foods and their ingredient. Okay, I'm showing that my spelling is not good, right?
But you know what? The large language model will go, no problem, I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly. So I got lucky that I'm
But you
living in
can't
the.
do the image generation in AI Studio yet, can you?
Oh, you can. So okay, which one was my? This was my AI Studio. Uh, if you are generating it based on Pro, I think actually Flash does it too, but you can give it an image or something, or you can ask it to generate you an image. Generate an image
I didn't know
of
it could generate images.
Hudson Valley.
Oh, I never noticed that.
One thing I noticed, Roya, is that
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I
it
thought.
does.
It doesn't generate images.
I think I did. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Really?
Roya, my version of this, I see Gemini 1.5 Flash and Pro, but I don't see Ultra, and I don't see.
These are preview, so because I'm a GDE, I have access to, but
I
it's
see.
not
Okay,
available.
great,
Yeah.
great.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I never tried actually doing image generation in here. I think it doesn't do it, which
Yeah,
is
I
interesting.
think the gentleman on here who's using Google to generate images, he's using the Imagen model. He's using Google Gemini to produce text prompts for the Imagen. His name, he's here. His name is the guy with the birds and the dresses. He gave his link here. He was here. Maybe he left. He Adel
Abdurazak.
Yeah, you use Imagen, but not the Gemini Pro model to generate images.
No, I use Gem, A1 1.5 Pro to generate text for uploading image, and I use Vertex AI to generate the image from my generated text. Did you
Right.
get that?
Yeah, I
So
looked at your I looked at your code and it
yes,
you yeah.
I use the both Vertex AI and Gemini A 1.5 Pro.
Right.
Because these are
I
multimodalities,
was
I
actually
think they. Sorry, go ahead.
I was able to generate an image in the chat.
In the chat or in the
But
AI
not AI
Studio here?
Studio. Not AI Studio.
No, maybe not. I didn't try AI Studio. Let's see. Let me try that.
I think in here it's different. You're right. In here it doesn't generate it, but it's weird because it does understand images.
Yeah, you can input images, but it won't produce them.
I don't think that it's because of the model, because to the point that Abdelrazak made,
Yes,
I
you can
think
generate image in Gemini.
yeah, you can generate them when you are inside the Vertex AI. There might be some issue because of the because basically whatever you are doing is for free, so maybe Google stops you, because you should be able to do that.
The model answered to me, I am unable to generate images. I am a text-based AI. And that's just in a prompt. So let me just try it again, changing the model. But in the chat, it will generate images. Yeah, I think this AI Studio is no images.
I will definitely look into it. Actually, I leave it on my notes to look into it further. And when I talk about fine tuning, I will get back to you on that.
It's
So
suggesting that I use Dolly 2, Midjourney, or Crayon.
Good call. I didn't understand who was talking, but good call. Thank you.
Good. Other questions for Roya?
Yes, I have advanced. I was have a many problem when I make my project. I submit my project to Google Hackathon 2 weeks ago, and I don't win. But there is many great project win in the hackathon. But I can't. What can I say? Marriage Vertex AI API and Jumanji Pro 1.5 in one framework. So I need to do the text generated in HTML and do the generate image in notebook, Jupyter notebook. Okay.
Sorry, let me make sure
S-
that I understood you right. So the problem is that you cannot
uh,
use.
use the post in the same framework. There is no documentation in Google for that.
Are you? Let me look into it. I think there are, but
My GitHub in the chat. You can see the project and follow me if you want. We are both friends in LinkedIn.
yes, I will definitely look into it and
Ah.
message you, or if you can add me on your LinkedIn so we can continue
Yes,
this
we
discussion.
are both from long time.
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry. I will look into it for you. I know there are codes. I think I wrote codes that calls two different models into the same platform. Are you using Vertex AI and
Also, the project, all the project is AI generated. I give the Jumanji the idea and ask him for HTML and SS, and I search for documentation in other way.
I will look into it and get back to you, but I think there is a way to go around it. Imagine and Gemini should be able to call from the same platform. There shouldn't be any reason to stop one and the other.
I think maybe he's using a Google Gemini API key to generate his text with Gemini,
Yes.
and he's not using a Vertex AI key to use Gemini, and that
No,
might be his.
I try the authentication is very hard and I get many error. So I have a video in YouTube demonstration my app. So that is the only way I get my account is open and my picture when I run the authentication. All the code in the GitHub. Uh, they pop up my login and I say yes to Google SDK and the API to work, and they generate every time. I need to do that every time when I promote the app.
Okay.
I certainly look into it and get back to you. I need
So,
to read your code.
Okay.
I want to just say, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're almost at the end of our time, and I just want to announce that Saturday, June 22nd, Saturday morning, 9 to 10:30, Roy is going to join us again, and we're going to go into explore Gemini in a lot more detail. Just reading from the posts that we have, we will move beyond the fundamentals of prompting and focus on how to optimize Gemini for specific tailored purposes. And by delving into the nuances of the platform, we can unlock its full potential and achieve even greater results. So it's going to be a really great workshop, and I recommend everybody come and join us for that. And we'll send out email and all that, so you'll see that. There is a link. I'm just going to put up from our website. Bear with me. Here we are. Here you can get more information and RSVP. We would really love you to join us. Roya, you were awesome. Thank you so much for everything you provided today. It was very interesting. I learned a lot, and and I already know a lot. I mean, I was already there and saw this, but to be able to hear it from your highly educated point of view and use was just extraordinarily valuable. And so I really applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate all of your kind words. I'm absolutely learning from you all the time. So looking forward to be a part of your community soon. And I think we are also planning for an in-person session. So I already booked it on my calendar. So yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
might be there to see the beautiful, beautiful Hudson Valley.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be doing an in-person session in, I believe, September is when we're planning this. And so we don't have a lot of detail on that yet, but we'll keep you informed.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that.
Great. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us.
Please pay attention. This is the joint efforts of 3 chapters right now, and we will continue collaborating. GDG Hudson, GDG Miami, GDG Boston, GDG Capital Region, and GDG Hudson once again. GDG
Thank you.
Hudson,
Thank you.
please join us.
I have a question about the link you just put up. It doesn't, the meetup group usually gives me a link to add to my Google Calendar. When I join this event on the GDG Community Dev, does it automatically go to Google Calendar?
Not automatically. You'll get a you'll
Email.
get a response saying, "Okay, you're in," and from there, from the mail,
Email.
you'll be able to generate from the email. You'll be able to generate a link.
I'll have to do that now then.
Yeah. Yep. That's interesting. I'm just looking at this. So we are the 22nd event is we're co-hosting that with Miami and with Capital Region, and so the link I showed you is from is sort of generic for all of us. It does say Capital Region on it, but that's just fine. We love them. They're one of us. So
Google
thank you,
Developers
everybody.
Group. Yes, Google Developers Group.
Yep, we're all Google developer groups. Yeah.
We help
All right,
each
good.
other,
Anything
unite
you want?
efforts.
Anything else you want to say, Yulia?
No, we appreciate all comers, all attendees, but the most of all, we're appreciating the efforts of the organizers. Whoever did the job. Once again, me, John, and Roya, and thanks again, Boston and Miami, to co-hosting it.
Yeah, it's great to see you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
We'll see you all now on the 22nd, I hope. Bye.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.